Welcome back to Industrial Problem Solving. My name is Dave Roysum. This is the second clip where we look at data sources. One of the biggest challenges is not too little data, but rather way too much. Almost all of it is simply not relevant to the problem you are working on. Here, we show you how to find the key bits among a mountain of otherwise worse than worthless data. An example of efficient and inefficient search strategies can be illustrated by the well-known 20 questions party game. Here, as in the industrial world, we want to get the answer as quick as possible to win, and certainly before we exhaust people's patience. I have something in mind. What's your first question? Your first question should probably be, is it a person? This is the classic person, place, or thing starting strategy. Then we can continue our query taking care to alter the questions based on what we've learned in earlier questions. It is vital to construct the questions to most nearly divide the remaining solution space in halves, or if not possible, thirds, such as we just did, or fourths, and so on. If, in this example, we find that what I have in mind is living, we would probably use one of the taxonomic organizations. For example, we might use the old school 5 life kingdoms, such as animals, plants, algae, fungi, and bacteria. Alternatively, we might choose to ask if it has chlorophyll. That would lump plants and algae together and all other living things in the not chlorophyll category. Beware, however, our minds are not necessarily adept at logic. Consider the following puzzle. Please pause the tape, then read the instructions carefully, then pick an answer. Go ahead, pause now. How did you do? How confident were you that you got the correct answer? The correct answer is E and 7 must be turned over, and here is why. The E must be turned over because the rule to be checked involves vowels. If, for example, we had an odd number on the other side, the rule would not be valid. Conversely, the K should not be turned over because we have no rules about consonants. Similarly, the 4 should not be turned over because a vowel on the other side would not disprove the rule, and we have no rule about consonants. In short, it matters not what is on the other side of the card with regard to checking the validity by trying to disprove the rule. However, the 7 must be turned over, because if there were a vowel on the other side, we would have just disproved the rule. Not so easy, was it? I teach my classes that the best problem solvers have one trait in common. That trait is not necessarily a superintelligence, advanced education, or years of experience. Yes, these may be helpful in some cases, and in other cases maybe not. The one trait that defines good problem solvers is immense laziness. They want to get the answer with the least effort possible. Applying critical thinking skills is one way. So here is a problem that has identical structure as in the previous one. Pause the tape and see if you can work out the answer. Pause now. The answer to the lazy policeman is much quicker and much surer to get. The answer, by the way, is obviously that the policeman must check the person who is drinking the beer to see if they're of age, and the 16-year-old to make sure they are not drinking alcohol. Why this problem seems to be easier is only because we can relate to it much easier than using pure logic. However, pure logic would be able to work both problems, while experience can only work the policeman problem. The point of all of this is that data always costs. Whether this data is a good bet or a bad bet depends on the details. However, in any case, it is not an investment. Or, if it is, it would be something like gambling on the stock market. More likely, investing in data would be more like investing in the lottery. Too many numbers, not anywhere near enough winning numbers. Your job as a troubleshooter is to make the most efficient searches possible by trying to gather data that is most likely to connect to your problem by confirming, or better yet, disconfirming working theories. The cost of data is not nearly the end of your data troubles. Most data is too much, too little, the wrong kind, or just plain wrong. As you get more and more successes in your problem solving, you should notice something quite important that would temper your data gathering zeal. That is, most problems can be figured out and verified by less than a half a dozen key observations, sometimes as few as 2 or 3. Thus, we don't need 1,000 data points in most cases. We just need a few that have high value. Also, as you get more experience, you should note that the high-value data is in service of testing a good working theory. In the early part of problem solving, we may have several working theories, and the data should be selected to test which is the better of the theories. As much thought should be put into your data gathering strategies as is put into constructing the working theories. Try to avoid going on a fishing expedition when you begin your detective work by using more analog type questions. Later, you are going to want more binary type data to test the working theories still standing, with the objective of trying to disprove some of them. There are many mental barriers that can keep the iterative, inductive, deductive cycle from spiraling into an answer of what makes the problem tick. In some cases, especially with poor problem definitions, you may need to start back from scratch to redefine the problem. Yet, your mind and your boss may not want you to do this because you've already been heavily invested in the path you are currently on. In other cases, you start out well, but get stuck on any of several mental blocks. Here is a starter list. In a later module, we will add to this list of pitfalls that you should be able to recognize long in advance so that you can hopefully work around them rather than getting trapped. While there are many ways to get stuck, there's an often effective way to get unstuck. That is, to simply take a break. That break could be as short as a lunch break, or as long as a sabbatical, depending on how long you've been beating your head against the wall. Then before you go back to it, talk to someone who doesn't tend to think like you do. Listen carefully, without judgment. Is there anything to their thinking that can inspire yours? Thank you so very much for joining me in this continuation to the problem-solving process. In the next clip, we will begin the core of the problem-solving process by talking about the many formal methods. Stay tuned.